Hello everyone! Today we'll be doing a brief introduction to Jira Task and Issue Management. Jira is a powerful project management tool that's used by software development teams to plan, track, and release software projects. In this video, we'll be focusing on the basics of Jira Task and Issue Management, and how it can be used to assign tasks to team members. This is important as it's something you'll be expected to do in your own group projects. Jira makes it easy for teams to prioritize tasks and monitor progress and contribute with one another. With Jira, you can easily assign tasks to team members, set deadlines, and track the status of each task. This helps teams stay organized and ensure that everyone is working towards a common goal. So let's get into it. Now that we've introduced Jira, let's talk about issues and how they're used to track work in Jira. In Jira, issues are the smallest unit of work that needs to be completed. Issues can range from simple tasks to complex projects and represent anything that needs to be done. Issues can be created for bugs, new features, improvements, or any other task that needs to be completed. Jira also has the ability to track epics, user stories, and bugs. An epic is a large piece of work that can be broken down into smaller tasks or issues. Usually, an epic spans multiple sprints if you're following the Agile methodology. User stories represent the needs of a particular user or group of users. And bugs, of course, represent any defects or problems in the software itself. Issues are organized into projects, and each project has its own set of issues. Projects in Jira can be customized to fit the specific needs of your team, and issues can be assigned to specific team members based on their skill and availability. For a group project, a Jira project has already been created for each team, and you can access this on Western's Jira server. Issues in Jira are highly customizable and can be assigned different priorities, statuses, and labels. Issues can also be linked to other issues, making it easy to see the relationships between different tasks and projects. So now that we have a basic understanding of what issues are in Jira, let's move on and explore Jira's user interface. So on the screen right now, what we have is a picture of Jira's issue interface. This is where you can display details about a specific issue. On the left here, we have a list of issues called the issue list, and by default, it's sorted by the creator of the issue. But you can change this using this drop down here to change the order of the issues and what they are sorted by. At the bottom, we have a button to create a new issue. Up here, we see what the summary of the issue is, what its name is. We have a set of quick add and edit buttons that lets us do things like edit this issue, add a comment, assign it to someone else, as well as change the status of it. Right now, this issue is listed as being part of our backlog. We then have a section that describes details about this issue. This includes the type of issue. We can select from things like epic, story, task, or a bug. We have the priority, so teams can assign different priority levels to each issue, things like medium, high, low, and so on. And we have custom labels that you can apply to help you be able to find your issues more easier. In this case, we have example and test label set. If this issue is part of a larger epic, we can link it to that. In this case, the issue itself is an epic, so its name is my epic. We also have a status of this issue, if it's been resolved, if it's in progress, and things like that. We can also find a description of the issue. This is what you input when you're creating the issue to describe what the issue is. In this case, it's an epic, so it would describe what that epic is. We have a spot where we can have attachments. Common attachments are things like diagrams or screenshots. And we also have a list of other issues that are currently in this epic. Right now, there's no more issues added to it. And at the bottom here, we have sort of the activity history. This will list things like comments, as well as the history of the issue, how it's changed, who's worked on it, things like that. Then we have a list of people related to the issue. So these would be, for example, the reporter who created the issue and who the issue is assigned to, an assignee. So Jira only lets you assign one issue to one person, and you can see that person as the one being responsible for the issue. So if you have multiple developers working on one issue, you could either create sub-issues under it and each assign those to a different developer, or you can just have the assignee represent who is overall responsible for the issue, who's managing those other developers working on it. Then we have dates, when the issue was created, when it was last updated, and those are the key things we need to know about the issue interface. Now that we have an understanding of what issues are in Jira and take a little bit of a look at that interface, let's talk about one of the most important tools for managing these issues, the Kanban board. Kanban board is a visual representation of work organized in columns to represent different stages of a process. In Jira, you can use a command board to visualize the progress of your tasks and your project as a whole, and to also see what needs to be done next. Command boards in Jira are normally highly customizable, allowing you to create columns that represent your specific work process. In our case, however, some of these configuration options require administrative rights to change, so most teams will be using the default command board setup. On the command board, you can change the status of an issue by simply dragging and dropping it into the appropriate column. This makes it easy to see what work is done, what work is in progress, and what work is yet to be started. Additionally, you can add swim lanes to your command board to organize your issues by project, assignee, priority, or any other criteria. This helps you see the big picture of your work and quickly identify any bottlenecks in your process. The command board is an essential tool for managing your issues and projects in Jira. By using this power visualization tool, you can easily track the progress of your work and make better informed decisions about what needs to be done next. So now let's take a look at the command board interface. What we can see on the screen right now is a screenshot of Jira's command board interface, with the default columns and rows already set up for us. The first column is the backlog column. This is for issues that aren't currently selected for development, but we'd like to eventually get to somewhere in the future. So in this column right now, you can see a bunch of boxes listed. Each one of those is an issue we've added to the system. When we add a new issue, by default it's given the backlog status, and automatically added to this column on our command board. The next column is selected for development. This is for issues that we've selected for development and we're actively going to be working on soon. For example, if we're following an agile methodology, these might be selected for the next sprint that's upcoming. The next column is the in progress column, and this is for issues that we are currently working on. And last is the done column, and this is for issues that have been completed or resolved. We finished the work on them. Now we also have different rows in the command board. Automatically, you'll have one row called expedited and one for everything else. Expedited are for issues that have been given the highest priority, and then everything else goes in the other column. These are highly customizable, and you can change the rules for the different rows in your command board. You just have to go into the settings, and then you could change it, for example, to have a different assignee for each row. However, some of these will require administrative rights to change. The goal here with the command board is to try to keep most of the issues either in the backlog or in the done column, with a few in progress. The reason why is you should only be focusing on a few things that you're actively working on and have a plan for how they're going to travel through your workflow. So these issues, once you've completed them or are moving them to a new status, can simply be clicked on and dragged and dropped into the other column, and this will automatically change their status in Jira. So for example, if we dragged that summary of an epic one, my epic, from backlog into selected for development, that would automatically change the status of the issue from backlog to selected for development. So this makes a very easy way to give a big overview of all the issues currently in your project, where they are, and allows you to easily change their status. So now that we've talked about the basics of command boards in Jira, let's take a look at how to create issues and use the command board in practice. I'll now demonstrate how to log into Jira, create an issue, and how to use the command board to manage it. Let's switch over to your favorite web browser and take a look. Okay, here's our OWL site, which you should be familiar with now. To get to Jira, you can click on Team Project and click on Project Software. On this page, we list all the different software that you have access to for this course, including the Atlassian software. Each one should have a list of tutorials as well as a link how to get there. In this case, we're doing Jira projects, so we have a list of tutorials here, but we can click on this link to get to the Jira site. Or you could simply type in jira.csd.uwo.ca into your browser. Okay, so it's asking for our credentials. These would be your standard Western credentials, same ones that you use to log into OWL, Student Center, or any of the labs here on campus. I'm going to log in now with the dummy account. So the first thing we see once we log in is the Jira dashboard, and this sort of gives a summary of your activity and your group members' activity across any projects in Jira. For most of us, we're only going to be on one project. That would be the project for this course. To see a list of projects, click on Projects, and do View All Projects. So most of you will just have one project listed like this, which would say CompSci 2012, Winter 23. and it would be group whatever your group number is. In this case, group 50 is the dummy group. Yours would be some other number. For example, if you're in team 5, it would say group 5. You can click on this to get access to the different things going on in your specific project. So right now there's no issues or anything added to this project, so it's going to be mostly blank. For example, if we click on the Kanban board, we're going to just see an empty board with no issues yet. To make a new issue, we would click on the Issues button down here. So right now we have no new issues, so we can make one here. If you click here, it'll have a different list of the different kinds of issues we can create. So an epic is sort of an overriding narrative of some feature that we want to add that will probably be complex and take a lot of subtasks or sub-stories. This would be something that would be completed over multiple sprints if you're doing the agile method. We'll start by making an epic. In this case, we're going to make the epic for that development tool that's part of our project. So we'll call it the min POI editor. And we can click Open a new dialog to enter some more information about this issue. So here we have all those different fields that we saw before when I was going over the user interface. Big thing we have to do is give it a name. So I'm going to give it the same name, min POI editor. And we have a quick summary. So it's going to be a min POI editor, let's say for adding new POIs, moving them, and editing them. Get that capitalization right there too. Next will be a description. This can be a lengthy description that explains in detail what this epic is, and it has some familiar editing tools up here that allow you to change the format, add images, attach files. I think it even lets you add emojis if you really want to. For now, I'm going to keep this short, but ideally for something like an epic, you'd want to be quite detailed. The next part will be the priority. And this should match up with the priority that you have listed in your use case templates. So if this thing was a high priority, we'd list it as high. If it was highest, highest, and so on. So we'll go with highest for this one. Next, you can add labels here. These can be your own labels. Like we could say this is part of POIs. And that would create a new label called POIs and assign it to this issue. This is useful if you have a ton of issues, then you can quickly search for the ones with the labels you need. For attachments, if we had some sort of diagram we wanted to add, or if we had a screenshot, we could attach it here by clicking Browse or just dropping it right on. And then linked issue lets us set up relationships with other issues. For example, if this issue was blocking another issue, you had to get it done first, you could say is blocked by or blocks. And if this issue contains another issue, you could say contains. There's quite a few different relationships you can set up. These are optional, however. You don't have to add them to your issues, but it's an extra feature you can use just to track the relationships between them. Now, one important thing is assignee, who this issue is being assigned to. So by default, it's automatic. You don't want automatic because that will either be me or your TA, who's the project leader, and that means they're going to get some annoying emails whenever this issue changes. So please make sure you don't select automatic for this. You can hit assign to me to assign it to yourself, or you can click down and you can see different users here, and you can pick one of the users from your group and assign it to them. So for now, I'm just going to assign it to this dummy user that I'm using right now. Now, since this is an epic can't be contained in another epic, but if this was some other kind of task or issue, we could then assign it to be part of an epic. So we'll hit create right now. And we get that screen that we saw before. So I'm not going to break it down in detail, but if we wanted to edit it, we could click edit, and that would allow us to make changes to it. If we wanted to change its status, right now it's starting in backlog, we could put it in a different spot, but we'll see how we could do that on the Kanban board a bit easier. So now once we've created an issue, we're going to always go back to this list. It won't show that screen from before. So you can select the current issues, but if you want to make a new one, you just click this create new button down here. And we're going to do a new story, let's say. Let's say, as a admin user, I want to add a new POI. And we can click Open Dialog to get more tools. We could give it more of a description if we wanted. I'm not going to do that right now. We can give it a priority. Let's say it's high. Give it labels. This is another POI related one. And this case, we're going to make sure that's assigned to us because we don't want it to be assigned to the project leader. And we can link it to an epic now. So we created that epic about a min POI editor, and this story is one of those cases within it. So it's a very simple story within the larger epic. So we simply hit create, get rid of that, and we will have a simple story added that is linked to the epic. So this is great because it's going to allow us to break this epic into multiple little stories. So we can create another type of issue. In this case, it's going to be a task. And we'll say, make the activity diagram for a min user adding POIs. So in this case, we're adding a task. This might be something someone in your group has to do to create some of the documentation behind this. So I have it set as a task rather than a story, because this isn't something the software is going to do. This is something one of the developers has to do. In this case, we'll assign it to someone else. Let's see. We'll assign it to Daniel Servos. And we're going to put it as part of that min editor epic because it's part of that bigger thing. It's a task that has to be done to complete that epic. And we can set the priority. In this case, we'll keep it as medium. And click create. So now we have 3 different issues created. And we can see this one's assigned to Daniel. This one's assigned to the CS2212 dummy user. And so is this one. If we want to change who is assigned to, we could click this assign button. And then we could select, for example, Daniel Servos. And we could even add a comment saying why we're assigning it to them if we wanted, and click assign. So now if we wanted to add a comment on this, we could click the add comment. Say, this is an important epic. Get it done right away. Comment could be anything that might be helpful. And then we have a list of all the comments down here. If we wanted to see what the history of this ticket is, how it's changed, we could click on history, and we can see when it was created, who created it, who it was assigned to, and we can also see that that assignee was changed, and we just changed it now. Okay, so far that's good. Now let's see how we use this with the Kanban board. So on the Kanban board, you can see these tickets have, or these issues rather, have already been assigned, and you can see the ones that are part of an epic have the epic listed. And the one that was assigned to the highest priority is given that lane right here, this row, and everything else are in these lower lanes. The reason why is because by default, Jira is set up to put ones marked as highest in this top column, so you can focus on them, and everything else down here. We'll take a look at how you could change that in a bit. So right now, everything's in backlog. If we were starting a sprint, let's say we wanted to work on certain parts of this epic, we could drag those over here. And let's take a look at how that changed the issues when we go back. So now when we click on, for example, the story, we can see that its status has been changed from backlog to selected for development automatically for us, just by moving it on the Kanban board. So while it's in progress, maybe our sprint has started and we're starting to work on these things, we could then move them to in progress. And then when it's done, we could then take it and move it to the done column. Very easy to do. And when we look at the status, you can see one of them is gone now. It's not deleted from the system. It's just being hidden rather, because it's not an open issue. If we wanted to see all of the issues, even the ones that aren't open, that are completed, we could hit all issues. And now we can see all the issues, even the one we just marked as completed. And you can see here, the status has been changed to done, and it's also the resolution is marked as done. So this will automatically hide it for you when you're only showing open issues. Another useful thing in the Kanban boards. So because we're not administrative users or the project leader, we do have limited ability to customize this. But I think one thing you can customize are these different rows. So we can go down and hit configure. And I've already selected swim lanes. Right now we have 2. There's expedited and everything else. So let's try adding a new one. We'll call this Daniel's tasks. And in the query, we're going to say assign E equals, let's try this. Oh, that's actually even better. We could say current user. And let's actually make this your tasks. And let's click add. So now we also have a swim lane that is going to be for any tasks where the assignee is the current user, and they will represent tasks that are assigned to you. When we go back to the board, we can see a new swim lane's been created, and this one is only going to list tasks that are assigned to you. So if that's useful, you might want to set up that lane for your project. You could also set up lanes for just showing one for each different team member, and as well as a lot of different things. It's quite customizable. And of course, you are allowed to simply keep it as it is by default. Okay, one last thing I'd like to show you is how to create a subtask. We're going to go back to our issues, and we're going to select the story here. As an admin user, I want to add a new POI. So right now, we can click on More, and then we can click Create Subtask. And this is great when you want to have multiple developers working on something, but Jira only allows each developer to be assigned a single task. So what you can do is if we want another developer working on as an admin user, I want to add a new POI, we can break it up into multiple subtasks. We go to Create Subtask, and we can see the issue type is subtask, and we can say code the POI file format. And we'll assign that to someone. We can give it a priority, maybe medium. And we can now assign that to, well, we'll assign it to me right now, the dummy user. Click Create. And it doesn't show up here right away, but it does show it under subtasks. So now we have one called Code the POI format, and we could add another subtask. And maybe this one will be about the GUI. We have Code the Editor GUI. We'll give this a lowest one. Actually, we'll keep it low. And we have to assign it to someone else. So the last one we assigned to me, the dummy user. The next one we'll assign to Daniel. And hit create. So now we have this story has two subtasks. One is Code the POI file format, assigned to the CS2212 user. And we have Code the GUI editor, assigned to Daniel. So this is one way you can deal with breaking a task into subtasks and then assigning those subtasks to different people. So we look at the Kanban board here. We can see that these subtasks show up just like any other task, and we can freely drag them between the different columns as they're worked on or even completed. Then when we go back and we see the editor one, we can see them change to done in the main task they are part of, which is great. Let's now head back to the slides and take a look at a few resources you can use to learn more about Jira. Now that you've seen a demo of how to create issues and use the Kanban board in Jira, you may want to learn more about the other features and capabilities of this powerful tool. To help you get started, I've put a list together of at least 2 resources right here on the screen right now, and these are tutorials that you can use to deepen your knowledge of Jira. These links can also be found on the project software page on OWL, and hopefully your classmates will share more resources they find useful on our course forums. That's all for today's tutorial on Jira. I hope you found it useful and have a better understanding of Jira and its features. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, be sure to check out the additional resources we just mentioned, and don't forget to practice and keep exploring Jira to become an expert user. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.